G'day there, welcome to The Rayside. My name is Hannah, and today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts and review of episode 3 of The Acolyte. Episode 3, Destiny, has brought us a story that has been quite something else on the internet, on social media, but today I am just going to genuinely and transparently talk about what I thought of the episode. And I had a very different experience because typically I usually do watch parties watching these episodes, but for one reason or another this week I watched it just alone with no Twitter, no internet, no YouTube, no one else watching it with me. And I really liked this episode and I thought it was engaging and I thought it presented some ideas that I really loved and I really love to see in Star Wars. I'm going to jump into the things I like about this episode and then the things I don't love so much. Starting with the things I like has to be Jodie Turner-Smith's portrayal of Mother Anastasia. I thought her character and performance of the character was so well done and really, really compelling. And I really hope that the fate that we see with her character isn't all that we see of her and that she does come back in some sort of other flashback way, and I'll get to why I think she will come back. This episode is a lot more solemn and slow at the start. We're getting a lot of these quieter moments with young Osha and May and, you know, their relationship, their dynamic, how they are acting, May wanting to be a witch and wanting to live this life, and we discover that Osha really doesn't want to live this witch life. So the first part of the first half, I would say, of the episode was definitely at a slower pace, but I typically don't mind that when it comes to Star Wars. That's usually for a reason, that we kind of need to listen to the dialogue and the purpose a little bit more. But the part where it really picked up for me is when the Jedi had entered into the discussion and when they came into the fold of what was happening. When they came in, Master Indara, Sol, Torben, and Kilnaka, when they entered, I mean, one thing, I just loved the music, the swell that happened with their entry. It felt very triumphant. It was very interesting to see what transpired here because the idea of Jedi taking children is something that has been explored in Star Wars a lot, and I mean, not only Jedi, but also Sith as well. Particularly, this reminded me of the Clone Wars episodes where Palpatine was after Force-sensitive babies or toddlers, and Cad Bane was helping out to actually go get them for him, and all those kinds of episodes. And this even happened as well in Rebels, this idea of people seeking out Force children. But, I mean, typically speaking, we've only seen it in a Sith sense. But in this episode, we see it as the Jedi. It was pretty forceful. I mean, you didn't really feel like you had an option, but they were, you know, in Master Indara was kind of saying there's an option, but it didn't feel like there was, which I think is just an interesting topic to bring up in Star Wars. And the idea of how they acquire their Force children for the Jedi is something that has always been quite fascinating to me. Speaking about this Witch Coven specifically, I don't really have a problem with them. I think it's a really cool expression of people that interact with the Force in a different way. And I believe, you know, they call it the thread. It's, to me, that's just still the Force. It's just how they think about it. Similarly to how the Dathomiri's don't call it the Force. They call it magic. I mean, there's a bit of crossover, but there is also a little bit of difference there with magic and the Force. I think they were perfectly fine. I'm kind of neutral on them. A part of me does wonder, what would this episode be like if this whole story was told from the perspective of Dathomir and the Dathomiris, and if these were the Dathomiri witches. A part of me wonders if that might have been a safer bet, especially kind of building on the Dathomir story as they're focusing. I mean, Dathomir comes up in Bad Batch, obviously Clone Wars, and then now in Ahsoka as well as Tales of the Empire. Dathomir is everywhere right now. Maybe it would have been a cooler connection for this witch coven to be the witches of Dathomir, and I mean, they don't look like they're from Dathomir, but it would have been cool to make that connection. But again, with the covenant that we have, they're just another group of witches, you know. That's how they be. They're talking about their powers and how they use them and how they express them and what it means to them. And particularly the scenes where Mother Anastasia was explaining to May and Osha the reason why they're witches and how they connect to it, I found quite profound and really fascinating. I think that was a well done scene there of how they talk about what the thread or the Force does for them. Then we get this scene of the Jedi and testing Osha and May for their Force abilities. I loved the Phantom Menace Easter eggs that we get in this scene. Of course, with the little tester screen, we get, both Moshe and May going in there, having to say with, through the Force what is on the screen. I love that. That was, it's no secret that Phantom Menace is my favorite Star Wars movie, so I loved that connection. And random Lothcat appearance, I kind of loved that as well. If I can touch on what I think of the writing so far of this show, it is reminding me very much of Phantom Menace Attack of the Clones type writing, in terms of it's less emphasis on elongated dialogue with, complex conversation, and it's very much based on symbolism and the framing of the scene, who the characters are in the scene, and there's only very few lines exchanged. That's very Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones to me. And I'm finding there's a lot of similarities. In this test scene, there's some fantastic one-liners, particularly from Master Soul, saying to Osha, you have to tell the truth. And he has this fantastic line saying, you must have the courage to say what you want. I think that's a fantastic line. Oh my goodness, get that tattooed. What a beautiful message. And Star Wars is full of that. So I really loved that. A couple of these lines were really powerful in that moment. Then we arrive at the scene, the end scene, the downfall of this witch coven, the downfall of this dynamic in the relationship between May and Osha, which took a turn. It kind of escalated quickly, if I can say that. May clearly showing that aggression, clearly showing that upsetness and frustration and a little bit of that dark side, I guess, if you will. And that turn happened very quickly. And I think I would have enjoyed if we had a bit more time with May, perhaps, to see why she gets so mad. We see bits of it, but I felt like we could have seen much, much more of it. But we get the turn. She sets the fire, and the whole place starts to become alight. Now, here's where the interesting, I think, mystery element of this show is presenting. We get this scene. The fire goes up. All the witches are down, dead, presumably dead. They're all just lying there, as well as Mother Anastasia. The only character we do not see is Mother Coral. She's the one we don't see, and we also know May is alive, so she gets out in some way or another as well. But the rest of them are down. Skipping ahead a little far right now, but the scene with Sol and Osha on the ship, on the Jedi ship, and Osha asking what happened, and Sol saying there was a fire. No one survived. Everyone's gone. Everyone's dead because of the fire that May started. Interesting, because to me, that's a blatant lie. They didn't die by fire. They didn't die, to what we know, specifically from May. So I think there is a lot more to this equation, this scene, this situation that we haven't seen as the audience yet. And the Jedi know more about. Of course, the drama of the first two episodes of Torben killing himself and May being able to kill Andara as well. Two Jedi are down from this horrific experience 16 years ago. Not to say that if it was the fire, but why would May put the blame on the Jedi if it was her? I think that's an interesting thought that I was having, that I think there's more to it and the Jedi know more of the situation. If I touch on the creation of Osha and May, my personal opinion of that, that we've seen things created by other cultures in Star Wars before. We see Mother Talzin on Dathomir use magic to make Savage Opress into this Sith force-wielding lord of power, and you can create the argument of why didn't she do that for everyone, and why didn't she just make an army of Sith, and why didn't Palpatine use that and know that, and I think there's always that what if of why didn't the Eagles just take Frodo to Mount Doom? I think it's a little bit of that situation for me at the moment. I don't see the argument straight away of this makes Anakin not so special. I definitely can appreciate that, and I could actually share that opinion by the end of the show, but honestly, I don't think I have enough information yet. I want to see all the episodes. I do believe that we'll be coming back to this coven and their purpose later on in the show, and I think, and I hope, I should say, that that's going to be explored and explained a little bit more. So I'm not fully set on this notion that it ruins Anakin's character. I mean, Anakin being one of my favorite characters, I'm not saying that lightly, but I just genuinely don't connect with the fact that this ruins his storyline. The fact that these, Osha and May was conceived in this Force way, perhaps. We don't know the full story of it, honestly. I want to know more, and I'm not jumping to kind of conclusions about it yet. But overall, pretty interesting episode. There was a few scenes that there was a couple of, the way they flowed together, a couple of moments that I would have changed and tweaked it a little bit. But overall, I enjoyed the story that it presented us, and I think it just progresses the story really well. And I'm calling it now. The Teeth Sith Acolyte Master, whoever that is, I really think that is going to be Mother Coral. I'm calling it now. Put my bets on it now. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to be a part of all the entertainment and community that happens on this channel, and be a part of our live shows that happen every week. It's a lot of fun, and I hope to see you there, part of the Rayside family. Before you go, make sure you always choose the Rayside.